congregation. Actually, I have a reading. Good. A reading from the wisdom of Susan Elliott. Fragile God, born in the night, we listen in the clarity of the cold night air. We hear the hoofs clopping in the dust, a man's soft voice reassuring a tired woman. We hear his voice inquiring, is there room? Is there room for us? Fragile God, born in the night, we know the story. We know that you are coming. Is there room? Is there room for you? Fragile God, born in the night, we see the shadowy figures finding the stable. There is no room. We see the man preparing a place in the hay. He makes room. We see the woman moving heavily, the hours of labor, the sweat, the tears, the cries, the moans, the crushing grip of the hands. We hear the insistent cry of the child wail out, born at last. Make room for me. Fragile God, born in the night, we hear your cry. We hear from the hills and the pastures your cry as a newborn child ringing out in the still air. Your cry echoed in the thunderous announcement from the skies. We see you in the manger. We travel across the miles to see your glory as a newborn child lying in a manger. Your glory reflected in the star we follow. Fragile God, born in the night, we have room for you. We are poor, scruffy shepherds and elegant, educated kings. We are servers in restaurants and CEOs of giant corporations. We are villagers hauling water for our families from distant wells. We are neurosurgeons holding life in our well-trained hands. We are survivors of immense disasters, struggling to rebuild lost lives. We are young children entranced with the glitter and mystery in the candlelight of this night. We are old grown-ups filled with the emotion of accumulated Christmas nights. We are members of big families joyfully reunited tonight, harried with preparations and seating arrangements for dinner, but glad to be catching up. We are individuals alone, especially aware of the absence of family members, family living far away, family taken by death, family from whom we are estranged, family we never had, children we never had. We are all these and more, all of us aware tonight of the fullness of time, of year following year, another Christmas full of all the Christmases of the years, of hearts filled with hearts, Christmases full of all the people we love and who love us. This time is very, very full for each of us, yet we have room for you. We come to your manger, each of us in the stillness of this night. Here we know our profound powerlessness, and here you are, a fragile, powerless newborn. Yet the newborn child in whom we recognize the ruler of the universe. We hear your newborn cry, the cry we have been waiting for. Make room for me. Fragile God, born in the night, meet us here at your manger. Meet us as a newborn child meets new parents, come to change our lives forever. Meet us as the newborn who insists that we make room for you, who requires that we reorder our lives to pay attention to you, who demands that we be recentered on the very center of life. Fragile God, born in the night, you come as a tiny light in a vast darkness, yet that fragile and flickering light changes the darkness completely. Fragile God, meet us here in the lighting of our small lights, that we may know your awesome power making room among us as the light that shines in the darkness, the fragile light that the darkness cannot overpower. Fragile God, there is room in our inn. Be born in our night. Amen.
Amen.
And now will you pray with me again? Barb, are you recording that? Okay. Will you pray with me? Holy One, shed your light on us tonight. May we hear the old story with new ears and open hearts, ready to carry your love and hope into a hurting world. Amen.
Amen.
It's Christmas Eve.
Yay!
Yay! The night's here, the night we've been waiting for since at least late November, if not earlier. October for some of us, or maybe even since last Christmas we've been waiting. And all the preparations are done, right? All the gifts purchased are made and wrapped, the cards sent, the house and tree and church are decorated, our cooking is all done. Okay, maybe some of that will be going on tomorrow. But the Advent wreath is all lit.
Yay!
We've sung many carols already. The concerts and plays and recitals and so on are all done. And it is indeed the night we've been anticipating. One night. All that preparation, cooking, shopping, decorating, wrapping, visiting, baking, all that anticipation for one night. But one night can change the world. One child can change the world. When Jesus was born, no one knew what his life would be like, any more than we know what any baby's life will be like. We all begin the same way, tiny, helpless, in need of everything, from food to a safe place to sleep, to clothes to wear. Now, some of us, most of us, were cared for as infants by our family, given a crib, fed and dressed. Jesus had cloths, a manger, and his mother to nurse him. He had those things too. He was born the way all humans are, a dangerous process for both mother and child, especially in those days. Our Christmas art often prettifies, as I say, prettifies, makes pretty, Mary and Jesus in the stable. Yeah. She's never sweaty or tired, right, or exhausted. And Jesus is never the tiny, red, wrinkled newborn. Sometimes he looks like a 4 or 5-year-old. And Joseph is never an anxious, hovering presence, wanting to help. Now, I've seen a trend recently of some nativity scenes that show Joseph holding the baby while Mary sleeps. And I love those. I love those because that shows Joseph caring for the baby too and helping Mary so that she can rest, right? It's so tender and much more realistic. It is hard work having a baby. But if we believe Jesus was born, then we have to remember that he was born, just like all babies. He didn't just float miraculously out of Mary's body, okay? He was born the usual way. So why is this so important to remember, especially on Christmas Eve? Because he lived as a human being, from his birth to his death. Easter morning is a different story. Come back on Easter and I'll talk about that. But the stunning idea that divinity would come to earth as a human being was new. The Roman and Greek and Phoenician and Babylonian and Egyptian gods visited human beings in their stories, in their myths. And at the other extreme, the Jewish God was so transcendent that it was inconceivable that God would become human and live as a human being. And Christians are still wrestling with what all that means, that Jesus was divine. And I won't get into the theology tonight, but the question focuses on how Jesus the Christ could be divine and human at the same time. Did a spark or a little bit of God put on a human body like a costume? Or did a human become divine? Or was he both at the same time? And how exactly did that work? Like I said, that's deeper theology than I'm prepared to go into tonight, and probably more than you want to hear tonight. So, the point of all this is simply that Jesus was born. And so everything that he did in his life was able to happen. His teachings, his example, his presence on the earth, and yes, his defiance of the religious leaders and of Rome that led to his execution by people who were afraid of him, and his message of love and reconciliation, and then the Easter resurrection. He lives through these for each of us. All made possible by a simple event, one night when a baby was born. And tonight is that night. So celebrate with joy the arrival of one who will teach us to love one another, to forgive one another, to live in peace and love with others. Celebrate this night, O holy night indeed, O blessed night, O joyful night, joy to the world.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.